without further ado, I want to introduce, tonight we'll be hearing from Parks and Rec, or our city parks, and the Pittsburgh Parking Authority. So I will turn it over to Ross Chapman from Parks.
Good evening. Thanks for being here. I've never presented in front of the Civic Leadership Academy before, so this is new to me. Again, my name is Ross Chapman. I'm the acting Deputy Director of City Parks, Parks and Rec. It's new to me, probably 6 weeks into my tenure in the Parks and Rec department. So it's a pretty big department. Lot to learn. I have a few subject matter experts with me tonight that can speak to a couple of the program areas a lot better than I can. So I'm in a transition period. It's pretty exciting. Molly mentioned personnel. I was in the Department of Personnel for 7 years, a little over 7 years I've been at the city, but my role in personnel had really nothing to do with human resources. I managed a group of folks that operated employment and training workforce development programs. So if you ever heard of the Learn and Earn Summer Youth Employment Program, that was my area, and the EARN program, which had a whole host of names over the years, a welfare-based program to get people employment training jobs and so forth. So that's my background. I was asked if I was interested to help out in parks. It sounded pretty exciting. I'm a city resident my entire life. Grew up in the South Hills, went to a small Catholic school, closed up. I have lived in the East End for the last, I don't know, 20 years or so. But the parks, city parks, its facilities, its services are always something that were kind of near and dear to me, and still are. I mean, I have young kids, and we live close to Highland Park. We're in Morningside, so we're right down the street from Heth's Park, and you know, it's a whole host of things that made this position interesting to me. So I'll do my best giving you kind of a high-level overview based on a presentation that the Director Jim Griffin, and the previous Deputy Director, I think they put this together. Most of it, nearly all of it, is still current, but it speaks to some accomplishments in 2016. I have a few that we were able to kind of quantify for 2017. So I'll speak to this, and then Ed Ulrich, who represents the Healthy Active Living Senior Program, is here. He'll talk. And we have Shelley Terlecki and Kurt Huber, who represent the pretty expansive aquatics program. They'll get up and say a few things too. So they're supervisors and managers in their respective areas, and they'll be able to speak pretty clearly about that stuff. Okay, so that's who we are. Mission: to enrich the lives of all city residents by fostering lifelong learning through programs, special events, social connections, healthy active living, and culturally diverse recreational opportunities. That, to me, is a really, you know, that's kind of the window dressing thing that says that what Parks and Rec does is try to reach city residents and others to better engage them in their communities and work to help improve their lives through recreation, through civic engagement, through a lot of programming that's done in the rec side, the senior side, the aquatic side, the community enrichment program that works in the public schools. There's a whole host of things that are I guess, qualitative and quantitative that the department does to reach the ever-expanding population of Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh feels different than it used to, and it feels good. It's exciting. So a lot of the stuff that the Parks Department does, it's pretty exciting stuff. These are just some metrics as to the number of facilities, and this is some data points. 24 year-round senior and rec centers. There's 14 recreation centers. There's 14 senior healthy active living centers, and 10 recreation centers. Ed operates basically 2 healthy active living centers, one in Greenfield and one in Glen Hazel. Glen Hazel's kind of a satellite, but he serves as a center director and manages the programs, the food service, all of those things that comprise our engagement with the senior population and others. I think there's conversation across the country, and definitely within in the city here, about how to better facilitate our resources, our facilities, and engage not just seniors in community senior centers, and not just youth and rec centers, but be able to kind of mix and have those populations kind of interrelate. Beachview Healthy Active Living Center, Senior Center, recently opened within the last couple months. That's kind of a new model in as much as we want to encourage community and civic engagement and open up that facility for community use. So we're trying to develop a model towards that, as well as to serve the seniors in that area that are accustomed to going there. It's a really beautiful facility. Anybody in the area, I encourage you to go see it. So as funding becomes available, great things like that can happen. That's just one example. Shelley and Kurt can talk about the pools, 18 outdoor pools, which is down from a historic high some time ago, 30 pools or something. 36 pools. Thanks, Kurt. So there's a lot that goes into the maintenance of the pools. There's a lot that goes into the maintenance of the facilities. And as everyone's probably pretty much aware, there's never enough money to do all the things that each department wants to do. So we work pretty closely with the Department of Public Works. We work closely with public safety. There's a lot of collaborative partnerships that we have internally and externally that help us facilitate all of the things that we do. And a lot of the people look at the parks, they might look at the pools, they look at the facilities, the rec centers, the senior centers, and they might think city parks, but a lot of those things kind of fall under the management, the facilities management of the folks in the Public Works Department. We couldn't do it without them. So they're responsible for maintaining ball fields and swimming pools, those physical things where we folks we have an operational and administrative kind of function to deliver the program and the service delivery for, excuse me, for a lot of those things. So it works pretty well. Those metrics down on the bottom that speak to the number of employees, this was probably as of April. That, of course, that number fluctuates, but you can see that there's a fair number of employees that are that engage, that we hire and or retain throughout the year. We have a big seasonal hit. You can see that was 224 people. Shelley will talk she can expand upon that, but those are a lot of the lifeguards and the folks that are involved in the aquatics program, because it's so large and there's so many people that need to be involved given all that it takes to operate the pools and the facilities. It's a pretty big staff. So there's a lot to manage there. Some of these places have closed, funding, facility issues, who knows what, but I think our goal is to always seek additional capital funding, operating funding, so we can not only drive the program initiatives, but also we can work to improve the facilities as much as possible. Just a quick glance at the budgets compared to the city budget. It looks like a really small slice, and it is, but when you're talking about the Parks Department receiving almost $5.3 million, that's a pretty sizable piece of money. It's not enough. It never is enough. And it doesn't represent much of the entire pie, but it's what we have to work with, and we make the best use of it. So it maps to our needs to a degree. It doesn't always map to our wants. So there's always a conversation with other departments and budget and the mayor's office as to how we can facilitate our needs and our wants, and usually we fall on target as much as possible, because there's a lot of other departments that have needs too. So current structure, Jim Griffin, it's too bad he couldn't be here because he's a lot more engaging than me and he's a lot more knowledgeable than me, especially considering Parks and Rec. But that's the current structure. Right? It speaks to all of the operational areas, the program areas, and there's a lot of people with a lot of stuff going on in each one of those areas. Again, this speaks to some of our areas of city parks areas of responsibility. One of the things that stands out on here, and again, Shelley can speak to it a little bit, is the Oliver Bath House. Some of you may be familiar with it, but it's kind of a landmark. It's the only indoor aquatic facility that's operated by the city. So if any of you have been there, you understand the interesting place that it is and its historical kind of, I guess, merits, I guess is the right word. There's some new spray parks. I don't know if those of you have read anything about kind of the spray park thing across the nation, but if you've been to or in around Mellon Park, where the Mellon tennis bubble is, there's a newer spray park there. Within the last year or so, maybe, that spray park, perhaps? 3 years, really? There's one going in at Paulson, perhaps? Next year? Thank you. But they're really nice. I mean, it's a way to have these kind of interactive water feature events that kids can run through and play, and my daughter's used it, and it's really a nice asset to some of the parks. So those have been some of the new kind of elements that have been added to some of the parks centers. You can see that there's some programming activity that happens at the cycling track down on Washington Boulevard. There's a whole host of things. A lot of these things, again, happen in collaboration and wouldn't be able to happen without the support of Department of Public Works. People are going to say, "What? Who do you work for them too?" But we all work together, and it's really the case that a lot of what I do, this is kind of a sideline thing, but a lot of what I do is follow around some of the folks in DPW and the architects to go to some of the facilities and start to address the needs. We're starting to do that. We're starting to look at what does a facility need as far as its infrastructure, what kind of capital money might be available to address some of those needs, and we're trying to make kind of a mass, these reference documents so that we can begin to hopefully move forward on some initiatives to bolster some of these buildings and some of the grounds around them. There's I think there's requirements now that if you receive federal funding, you have to spend so much of it on greenscape. Well, we need to find ways that we can maintain the greenscape that's put into some of these new facilities. So there's a lot that goes on from that facilities perspective that keeps all of this kind of moving forward. I'll just touch on this a little bit because, again, Shelley and Kurt can talk about it. But again, there's a host of swimming pools. Information's all on the city's website, too. There's the Shenley Ice Rink. I think usually the anticipated open date for the ice rink, weather permitting and a whole bunch of other factors permitting it, is around the beginning of November. There's, of course, the Mellon Park Indoor Tennis Center, which, as I understand it, before that tennis center, the bubble was built, there were enough actively engaged tennis players in the city that wanted a place to play tennis in the colder months, right? In Pittsburgh, well, not anymore, but used to be pretty cold for half a year. So I think people petitioned the city, they raised funds, they started a trust fund, and they moved to attempt to secure the construction of the bubble. Ultimately, it was built. I think I don't know how many years ago, finally got an air conditioning system in it. So I'm working with some folks in the finance department, as well as some people in the IT, Innovation and Performance Department, to help try to kind of deploy cash management scenarios, software, basically, and hardware, that will better facilitate the collection of money at swimming pools, the collection of money for the ice skating rink, so we can move away from some of the antiquated, oh, here's a check, or here's $5 for my kid to swim or whatever, and we can move it forward and have people use debit and credit cards. And there's an initiative to do that, so we're going to work at that, and I've been talking to some folks about trying to deploy that. But if you haven't checked out the Mellon Park Indoor Tennis Center, the bubble, it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty cool place. Grub Up is, if any of you are familiar with the meal programs that are offered they're offered for youth up to 18. I think that if a youth up to 21 has any mental disabilities, meals are provided to them too. It's in the summertime. They offer a breakfast, a lunch, a snack, and depending on the location, a dinner. The after-school program that is facilitated through our rec centers, They offer an after-school meal. Usually kids, in a lot of communities, a lot of kids pile right off the school bus, or when school's out, they go run right to the rec center, and that's where they spend the duration of their afternoons a lot of times before they head home. So a lot of these meals that are given to these kids are meals that they really need. So there's a statistic in the back somewhere that I think it's a 2016 metric. I don't think we have them yet for 2017, but it speaks to the number of meals served, and it's pretty impressive because I think that all these kids that are getting a meal, they want one and they need one. So that's a really great thing that the Parks Department does, and I know a lot of people work hard on that. Community recreation and city sports stuff, the community rec program, I have some additional notes. I wanted to talk about that a little bit because that's pretty comprehensive, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get people to find time in their busy schedules to assist me with this, but I'll do my best. Again, I said 10 locations. A lot of what they do is, all of what they do really, is driven around youth engagement. In the summertime they have, and I don't know if last year or 2015 was the first year, city sports, where they have competitive and non-competitive league play. There's a lot of academies that they do. They run clinics. So there's a real active engagement in connecting youth through sports. And the benefits, I think the dividends play out in connecting youth with other people in the community. You have the adult child kind of relationship development. There's a whole safety aspect of that, and it goes a long way in really getting kids into programming, athletic programming specifically, for those that are interested during the summer months. So it's a great thing. Another thing that they do is City Camp. I think it's offered at 5 of the rec centers, I believe, where they focus on not just STEM, but STEAM. They added an A in there, I think. Yeah. Science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Is that right? Right. I know they do things regarding history and media and a whole bunch of other things that are wrapped into that too. So those are just a couple of a lot of the programming stuff that goes on at the rec centers that touches youths every day, 365 days a year. So it's pretty exciting stuff that they do as well. Farmers markets. Some are still going on. I think only 2 have ended. There is 8 that are currently that run throughout the city. I think Beachview and there's one in Sheridan that have ended or are ending this month. The rest run into November. I usually hit up the one that's in East Liberty because it's closest to me. I think that one goes to November 21st or something. That's a Monday farmers market. But this is an area too that I think has really grown. I remember going to the farmers markets when they first started. I don't know about first started, but you'd see a few people mulling around. They'd have a few shopping bags and whatever, and now you go to them, and depending on the time of day you go there, it's like this outdoor grocery store. It's amazing, and people are buying fresh fruits and vegetables, and it's really neat to see. There's young people, sometimes there's community engagement. I know that the personnel department uses that to go out and to talk to people about the city and positions within the city. So it's become another area of kind of civic engagement, and it's kind of through food and stuff. So it's pretty cool. I mean, we usually don't miss it because it's so close to us, and even if we don't buy anything, we usually end up going there. Again, the Healthy Active Living Centers, Ed will talk a little bit more about that. And community enrichment and education, no one from the CEP group, but those are the folks that are in public schools, roving art cart. They're the ones that are putting on special education. A lot of it's art-based, some of it isn't. A lot of it's education-based, assisting teachers, and touching youth all year round. They do stuff that involves the tree lighting ceremony for the city of Pittsburgh. So the breadth of their kind of footprint is pretty significant, and they usually get engaged in some manner, shape, and form in almost every other department's activities in some way. They get pulled in. They're artists, they're really creative people. They've been most of them I think have been at the city for quite some time. So they're one of these kind of outreach components that are heavily involved in kind of that life enhancement stuff that makes people's lives, I think, a little richer. So it's pretty cool stuff. 2016 accomplishments, you can see some of those, but I jotted down some that are relative to 2017. Westinghouse Memorial, for those of you that are familiar with that, it's a really nice job. The Frick Environmental Center, in partnership with the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, PPC, that was a really big deal. It was a long time in the works.
They visited that as with Public Works. That's where the Public Works presentation was.
Okay,
so they
good.
have seen it firsthand.
Okay,
the wonderful
good. Yeah,
work
that's a really dynamic place. I mean, it's a really cool facility. So I don't know if I mentioned it before. I don't think I did, but the city collaborates and partners with the PPC for a number of parks, and the Frick is kind of maybe the latest shiniest gem to point to that collaboration. But if you haven't been there, please attend. Please go check it out. It's a cool place. It won't appear on a slide, but some of the 2017 accomplishments, are I didn't talk about it yet, but I will in a minute. The Park Ranger program, which is a city parks program, kind of in conjunction with county park rangers, but there's 9 full-time city park rangers now. They're at Frick, Shenley, Riverview, Highland, Westinghouse, Mellon Park. They make their rounds. They've been able to get I think they've got a $700,000 grant 2 years running to do programming in the park. One of the additional things that they do is, I think for 2 years running now, 17 might be the first year. I'm going to say 16 too. They've gotten a small grant from the Buell Foundation to provide park ranger teaching, outdoor environment, learning experiences for 5th graders throughout the whole north side. So if there's a 5th grade child at any school, public or private, they do a 5-day course session, classroom, outside, a whole host of things, and this grant allows them to do that. They cover about 2,000 square feet or 2,000 square acres, and that's going to perhaps bump up to about 3,000. So they're trying to increase their staff, but that program, the Park Ranger program in and of itself, it's a pretty neat feature, and I have engaged long before I was in parks with a park ranger, I think in Frick once, in Shenley once, and maybe just those 2 places. But you can almost ask them any question about the park, and they can give you an answer. I find it to be a cool job. It's a very cool job. So those were some of the things that kind of kicked off. I don't even think the park rangers is mentioned there. There might be a picture of it there. A couple more 2017 accomplishments. I mentioned the Beachview Senior Center, Healthy Active Living Center. We have support from Allegheny County that helps support our senior program. That's a continuing collaboration. It means a lot to us. We're now engaged in some kind of performance metrics for that, and that allows us to try to help to develop new and exciting program, whether it be health and wellness and nutrition. Ed can speak more to that, but that helps us better engage those folks. I think City Camps programming, they had 100% enrollment, so those that signed up came to the program and were satisfied by what was delivered. Arlington Spray Park, Paulson Spray Park underway, and currently we have a senior center, Healthy Active Living Center in Morningside. But if anybody I don't see it in the media as much as I'd like to, but there's going to be a Morningside Senior Living Center. I think it's called Morningside Crossroads. I'm not sure. Morningside Crossing. It's where the old Morningside Elementary School was. That school has been closed for some time. They're developing it into I think it's an affordable housing living scenario for seniors. My mom's interested. She doesn't live in the city now, and she's like, I'll come back for that. But our senior center there, Morningside Senior Center, we're going to house it in Morningside Crossing. So it's pretty exciting. It's one of those, again, tie-ins for the senior community to become part of the greater community of the neighborhood. So I'm going to go look at that in more detail on Friday morning, I think. The chief and I are going to go look at that. So that's one of the things that are kind of underway for 2017, and hopefully they'll complete it by 2018. 2,000, I can't see it, almost 300,000 active living units of service. Ed will talk about what that is, but those are basically touch points for the number of services delivered to people. So that's a pretty sizable number. That's a 2016 number, as well as the kids, the students that engage in swimming. So it's when you see numbers like that, you realize that it's not just a number. It represents a touch that you're making with someone that we engage with. I think that's pretty motivating. Oh yeah, there was a small picture. There wasn't much mentioned of the park ranger, but there's a small photograph of them in the far left corner, and that program, as I mentioned, is growing, and it's become upper left corner. Okay. Yeah, that's the one. Thanks, Molly. Thank you. That's correct. Yeah. So those are just a few things at a very kind of high level. Took too much time. Overview, and based on my 6 weeks in the Parks and Rec department. So thanks for coming to listen to us and hear us talk and tell you a little bit about what we do. Ed Ulrich from the Healthy Active Living program is going to come up and talk a little bit, and then Shelley and Kurt from the Aquatics program, they'll come up next. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
I did not bring a whole lot of notes, so we're just going to kind of wing it. My name's Ed Ulrich. I run the Greenfield Healthy Active Living Center. Ross asked me to do this yesterday, and a lot of notice, but
turn this way. It just records your voice.
You did say the 6 feet. I'm sorry. So he asked me to do this yesterday, and I said sure, because one, I just love telling people about what I do, where I do it, and our center is one of 14 centers in the city. We are the busiest center in the city. I think April knows that, right? Yeah, hi April. We serve adults that are 60 and older. However, our building houses a senior center, a rec center. We also have a pool out back. We're one of the only facilities within the city that has all of that together. So in the summer, when the kids are downstairs and the seniors are upstairs, there's people out in the pool. There could be 400 or 500 people at the building easily. Ross touched on some things like the point of contact. We are the one agency, I think, that touches every age group all the time. And it's not an emergency. You know, it's good contacts for the most part. So we get part of our funding from the Allegheny County Agency on Aging. So they help with our programming. They provide the money for the food. Our food is catered every day. The seniors just have to sign up the day before. And like I said, it doesn't cost them. We ask for a 50-cent donation. 50 cents. And all that money just stays at the center for different programming needs that we do. And they're not bad meals. We got some good, some bad. I'm not going to lie to you. But the meals aren't everything that we do. There are some people that do come just for the meal and need the meal, and that's fine. But we like to do all other activities. We do health and wellness activities. We educate. We do arts and humanities. We provide different physical activities, exercises of different levels, not just chair exercises or chair aerobics, but we have high impact aerobics. We have Tai Chi. We play pickleball. We play basketball. So pretty much anything, we play bocce, pretty much anything you guys all would do, they'll do. Maybe not to the level, but they'll do it. And the important part about our service is they are getting out of bed or out of their house and coming out to do something. And I know for my center in particular, I have a high Chinese population. And the Chinese, if you notice, they're always in good shape. They're always walking. They're always moving. They do all the exercises, and that's why they live long and healthy lives. So that's what we try to promote. We offer, I don't know, where do you want me to go with this, Ross? So we just offer everything. I mean, anything that they want to do, we will do. We do have the traditional bingo and cards and stuff, you know. Some people like that. Some don't. But we have, we do outreach. So we have to make contact with people outside of the center that might not come to the center, might be homebound, just to make sure they're okay. We sign up people for access and OPT, which is their transportation. You see the vans driving around everywhere. We can register people to vote. We can, get any kind of service if somebody's family member calls and they're having trouble with their mom, dad, grandfather. We can make contact with Department of Aging and be the point on that. But our center, like I said, our center is the busiest. I love what I do. I don't know what else you want to go. Okay. Is there any other questions? I mean, anybody have any questions about senior centers? Go ahead.
What sort of interfacing does the senior population do at your center with populations of other age groups? So you mentioned something about kids.
Right, yeah. So we do have some classes that we'll do, like especially in the summertime when during the day all the kids are there, because most of the seniors are there during the day and the kids are still in school. So in the summertime we do stuff like craft class. We'll even have the kids upstairs and they'll do bingo. Just different ice cream socials. They'll go down and play bocce with the kids because the kids, most of them don't know what bocce is. So, but we do all kinds of stuff. I wish every center had all the kids around because we get kids. So in our building we have 2 different entrances, but we get people coming in every direction and stuff. So kids are always coming in, seniors are going everywhere, and we have a full fitness room down in our gym, and so you get a lot of cross in there during the day as far as different younger age groups and the seniors. So anything else? Yeah.
You run Greenfield?
Yes.
One other?
Oh, Glen Hazel. So Glen Hazel's a satellite site, and that's in the Glen Hazel Housing Authority building. That's just a part-time site, but we offer all the same stuff. We don't have as many resources there. It's a smaller site, because at Greenfield we serve about 60 to 90 people a day. So Glen Hazel might do 20 a day, so it's just smaller.
That really wasn't my question.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know how much you know about the whole city group of seniors, healthy, active living centers. I belong to the one in Lawrenceville.
Okay.
The only reason I go is because they take you shopping every week and drop you at your house and take all your groceries for you.
Correct. We do have.
Which is wonderful. I know they have varied activities. I have 2 questions within one.
Sure.
One is, why do they continually change the personnel every few months?
Okay.
So as soon as somebody gets used to the new staff and the staff gets used to all the people, there's a new staff member. This has happened over and over and over in Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
And also, why is it we're not getting the city vans anymore for shopping trips? We're getting OPT that we pay for. And before that, we had city vans that took us every week for free.
Okay, I can address the
And I know
city
there's
van.
not
As
enough
far as the
drivers all the
personnel
time.
thing, that would be Ross's department. The city vans I can do. We do have 3 vans available. We used to have 2 drivers that drove full time. So, and not all the staff that we have now is trained to do the driving. So that, I'm not making an excuse, I'm just telling you that limits
the new staff member in Lawrenceville is trained to drive.
Okay.
But he's never had the occasion to be able to drive one.
Okay.
We're always told the vans are all in use or something.
Okay, Ross can address that for you.
Yes, ma'am. So vans, it's something to look into. To talk about personnel, it seems as though the department, and maybe this is across all city departments, I don't know, but we're not always, but we're operating at a personnel deficit, meaning we need to hire more people. Some of that is budgetary. Some of it is just being able to attract the right people that want to come into the department. A lot of times they come in as part-time. Well, a full-time opening, well, there's a prescription that follows the budget as to when that may become available. So my goal, and I think it's the goal of everybody, is we want to be able to cross-train people and expose new staff to different centers so that they can see how they operate their specific programs. The way Ed operates Greenfield and Glen Hazel, his programs and some of the structure of what he does is different than, say, Lawrenceville or the Homewood Senior Center. So I think my goal is to eliminate or reduce churn, but at the same time provide exposure for staff to be able to move about, but not disrupt connections and relationships that are forged, because they're really important. Yes, ma'am. They're really, as soon as you begin to get comfortable with someone, that person for some reason is no longer there. Sometimes there's a valid reason for that. Sometimes it might be mismanagement, or we're making some sort of executive decision based on what we think might be best, and it's not in your best interest. So all of those things have to be, in my opinion, carefully weighed out before those things occur. And sometimes we can do that and prevent those shifts. Sometimes we have to make one move, and it's like a domino that affects other centers, and that's unfortunately sometimes the reality. But I think the goal is to never kind of get in the way of any kind of engagement or relationship that's forged by anybody that comes into our centers and the staff that we have. So I hope that helps a little bit. Oh, yes, ma'am. Sure.
Is there a question over here?
Hi, I think that this is a question for your department and maybe Molly in combination. I was just curious about the Welcoming Pittsburgh initiative and the welcoming hubs. Is the Greenfield Center one of those?
No, we're not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I guess that answers my question.
Yeah, and I don't know specifically where those are, but I can get that information.
Okay.
I'll post it on the Slack.
Thank you.
Hi, how did you develop eligibility requirements for your particular services for your programs?
Okay, so we're, as I said, the Department of Aging with the county. That's in our contract with the county.
Okay.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's state and even national. No, it's definitely state.
Okay.
As far as the 60 and older.
60 and older is the requirement? Okay.
Well, let me rephrase. So it's 60 and older for you to come in and eat and do programs that are funded by the county that they actually fund.
Okay.
Anybody can come in and play bingo or, do that kind of stuff. But any of the funding, yeah.
Okay.
So they lay all the restrictions.
So when you say you serve 60 to 90 people a day,
Yeah.
do you mean like on your roster by the county?
So
or?
usually that's between our lunch count and how many people, like we have people that come in just to use the fitness center and stuff. They're usually they're seniors as well.
Okay.
I don't have too many that are non-seniors.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we have a few that are in their late 50s that come in, but
You don't really, worry about that sort of thing.
no,
Okay.
they don't really. No, they don't really.
Just curious
count
if
as
it's
their
like very
numbers.
competitive to get in,
Right, no, but we try to open it up to everybody as much as possible.
Thank
once
you.
it comes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Ed. I just wanted to ask if it was and I was a bit late, but I wanted to ask if it was a conscious rebranding of calling them the Healthy Active Living Centers, because I feel like I saw that term pop up very recently.
Yeah, that happened I believe, when the mayor started, so when the new administration came in.
It seemed like such a good idea because, for example, with the yoga class, that's what I'm doing there. And I'd say probably most of the women in the class are maybe 50 plus, but it's so good to have people who are younger coming into the center and getting used to going there, and it becomes kind of a pattern. So if some of us are going to be aging in Pittsburgh, then now we're used to going there, we feel welcome there, and maybe make it a habit for into our 70s or 80s to keep going there.
So that was the whole
it's really cool
idea. April goes to our, we have a yoga class every Tuesday evening, and it's open to all ages. We do have seniors in there, but we also have younger people too. So that's a good mixture of, the intergenerational thing. And most people that come into our building, that's the idea. You get people into the building for recreation when they're young, and they'll see what happens upstairs. So any other questions?
The question, but it's for Ross.
Yes.
You had talked about the recreational centers that they have around the city, and I know you said you're new in your position, but how do they make the determination on where they put the rec centers? Like, we're in the West End, there is no rec center at all for the kids.
Well, I don't think I can give you any kind of adequate answer for that for sure. Thank you. I think the determination for some of the rec centers was probably determined some time ago. There's a healthy active living center in the West End, and it speaks to that model of trying to adopt a philosophy and be able to kind of sell that so that you're engaging not seniors just because that's the senior center, but you're engaging the community, which is going to pull in the same folks that Greenfield pulls in at Ed Center. So I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I want to comment about the difference between Greenfield and
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. There's a number, as Ed mentioned, he sees a lot of people. Not all of our centers see that many people. Are 14 senior centers too many? I don't know. I mean, we have 24 centers. What's the best way to approach engagement so that everybody has the services that they want, forging the relationships that they need, having all of those things for each community? Does it mean that these centers should be separate as standalone buildings? I don't know. But those are some of the conversations that are taking place. I don't know. The city owns a lot of property, and they're going through an inventory and are having people respond to it, and they're trying to get a better handle on how to address some of the property they have. Do they have another facility in the West End that might be better suited for senior programming? I don't know. So I can't really answer your question as to why there isn't a recreation center there. We looked at a couple things in my previous department as far as youth programming goes that the West End also didn't really have. Had it kind of, but not really. So there are areas of need that I think it's not just up to one department or even local government to be able to help solve. You got to pull in some community partners. So, sure. Yeah, I'll run it over to you. We'll stand close, and then I don't have to.
So when you talked about the Morningside Crossing,
yes,
did the city buy this? Well, the city owned that school, right? Where they turned that in?
That was a public school.
That was a public school.
It closed. I've lived in Morningside for 7 or 8 years. It's been closed since I've lived there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it was being touted as a senior center. They were looking at it as affordable housing. I don't know all of the development options, but one that became palatable for most residents, city government, the developer, was to develop something for seniors, and it made sense to pull the old senior center, Healthy Active Living Center, and put it under that umbrella. So it's a development package that makes sense, and I think that if we saw more of that, we could see something like that in the
That was
West
going to
End.
be my question,
Yes.
because there's a couple schools on the West End that are owned by the city that are closed.
Yes.
So that could be an option.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, the schools that the schools that are closed, I think they might fall under Pittsburgh Public Schools ownership.
Yeah.
And so they've been going through an inventory for the last several years and selling off buildings for a song, I think. I mean, you know, if you're a developer and you're looking for a pretty cool building, you can get some, but I think there's a lot more to it. You know, there's taxes, there's a whole host of things that I don't know anything about, but that's my best explanation. I hope that helps a little bit.
It helps.
Okay.
I think also too, once Langley opens the community, like as a community school, as a fully functional one, I think that was the councilwoman's hope, Councilwoman Smith's hope that will really draw the crowd that's looking for a rec center, as well as the church that's opening a community center in Wind Gap, like down on Chartiers. Yeah. And then you'll have Langley up there. And then I know that the West End is obviously much bigger than that, but that's a step in the right direction, hopefully. Yeah. Awesome. Yes. Oh. Right. Okay. Maybe one more, and then because we gotta also.
Can we have the aquatics folks just talk a little bit too long?
Yeah. We'll take one more and then aquatics. Is that Brittany? If you have another question, we can. No, I don't. Okay.
I was just curious. I'm from the Bellsuver area, so Warrington Recreation Center. There we have no children there. I guess Youth Places has pulled out, and I was just kind of wondering what's happening in that area. Is it because we do need more partnerships to bring in for Warrington, or what's?
I wish I could speak to that. I grew up in Bellsuver.
I was going to say I know your face because I've.
I mean, I probably use McKinley more than Warrington.
Exactly. I was a McKinley kid also, but I was just kind of curious because as I drive by now, I've noticed there's no children out there, and then I've heard that Youth Places had pulled out and they've gone somewhere else, and I heard it was, I guess, because of numbers, but I was just kind of wondering how to get more children in that area.
Well, I don't know, but I think it's imperative, and it's in progress that the programming outreach component remain or become significant and more significant in certain areas. So if we're seeing a dip in activity, let's just say at the West End Senior Center, at the Warrington Rec Center, then that might speak to us and say that we need to think of a different methodology to reach out to people and try to engage. It definitely involves some partnerships. I don't know for sure, but some of the facilities that we operate in, the city doesn't own, or we have a partnership with somebody else. So there's these linkages that sometimes it might be something contractual. I don't know. But knowing that area and having grown up in that area, there's a need to engage youth there. And so it's hard to speak to why they don't come, but there's probably a myriad of reasons. But I think that self-examination as the department, it has to start there, and we have to think about ways to improve our service delivery so that it speaks to the youth in that area and we're giving them something that they want to do. Sometimes you get into something that might be a little bit cookie cutter. I don't think that's the case, but maybe you're delivering something in one area thinking it'll work in another, and it just doesn't. The youth aren't into it, whatever that thing is. So I think there should be, and there is to some extent, maybe it can be approved upon, a unique prescription for that center and what they deliver and who they're trying to reach out to. So, you're welcome. Thanks, Ed. Sorry you stood up there for so long.
Thanks. All right. Aquatics team.
Yeah, no, you can go down. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us here today, this evening. And whenever Ross called upon us to see if we would come, both of us were very excited to. We've been with the Aquatics Division for a long time. My name again is Shelley Terlecki, and this is Kurt Huber. I'm the aquatic supervisor for City Parks, and I've actually came through and grew up through City Parks. I've always lived in the city. I live in Brookline, and I started my first job as a pool aide at one of the pools, because you had to be 18 to be a lifeguard, not 16. So after my first year of college, I came back and started lifeguarding. So I lifeguarded for a couple years, and then moved up to management, a head guard position, and then graduated college and became full-time with the City Parks Aquatics, and then moved up to an aquatics supervisor position. So I've been through all the different levels, and it wasn't something I was expecting to do with my life. I went to school for neuroscience, so it's a little bit off track of what I was thinking. When I graduated Pitt, I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in, because a lot of the schooling back then, you had to go an additional 4 years if you wanted to become like a nurse anesthetist, or any type of program, physical therapy. So I happened to get on full-time with the city, and I really loved working full-time. I supervise and oversee, like Ross was saying earlier, about that 225 seasonal employees. So probably about 200 of them are seasonal, and 25 are year-round. So I just love working with people of all ages. I mean, we've got kids starting at 16, high school through college, through their rough years of getting them to, just be responsible, be mature, be adults, make good decisions. And then we also retain a lot of our guards that come back that are able to work on a part-time basis. They are school teachers or work for places where they have evenings and weekends off. So we try to keep as much maturity going with the pools to keep them safe. But our primary job is just to keep the pools clean and safe for everyone to be swimming in. So we do, as we spoke earlier, have a total of 19 pools right now. 18 are the outdoor pools, which I'm sure a lot of you have visited or at least seen all throughout the city. We have 6 spray parks, and they started making the spray parks quite a few years ago when they started converting the older pools that we closed back in 2003. That was the last year for all of I believe we had 32 pools with 1 indoor pool on 2003. So the following year in 2004, we only opened 12 pools. Then slowly opened a couple more and reached 18 over the years past that. But then we started looking, and they started converting some of those pools into spray parks, which is great for kids that are 12 and under. They love them. People come from all throughout the city, outside of the city. We're always getting phone calls about them. It is free for the public, and it's just great to watch the kids just really enjoy and have fun. And I know that they were showing some pictures, and I mean, if you ever want to just, go relax and just de-stress for a day, going to one of the spray parks and just watching the kids laugh and giggle and have so much fun will just lift your spirits. So it was a great idea, because it was something that they weren't going to be able to reopen the facilities based on probably the condition of the facilities, the pools, the maintenance. A lot of these pools are very, very old, and population, the number of people. I know they were talking about how they decided on what type of facilities remained open, and I believe a lot of that had to do with, I remember giving a lot of information about the attendance, our program attendance, overall attendance during the days, geographically, what makes sense, making sure that everybody can get to a pool either by walking or within close proximity or a mile or 2 of each other. I unfortunately didn't take part in being able to say which pools would remain open, because that's a big question that people always say, why did they close my pool? Why did they close mine? They actually closed my pool, which was Brookline, the one that I worked at and grew up at, because they kept, or you're from Brookline, they kept more open. And I said, that's 2 high attendance pools, and they're 2 different communities, even though it's Brookline. So I was very upset, because I grew up there, and my brothers and sisters, they played sports there. It was always very active with the rec center, all the ball fields, and so I too could feel everyone's pain when they closed my specific pool that I grew up in. But that's something that we had to do, and we just move forward, and we try to provide the best programming that we can for all ages. I mean, we start at infant and preschool, and we run all the way through seniors. And I can list, you know, like different type of programs and stuff that we have. But I'm going to let just Kurt talk a little bit first about what he does in his role. Like, I oversee all the administration, all of the hiring, the day-to-day operations of the pool when it comes to the staffing. We have lifeguards, pool aides, pool cashiers, and we have spray park attendants. So I do all of the administration, the training, and getting everything up and running, and just kind of molding the guards into their jobs. And you look like you have a question. Did you want me to? Go ahead, you can ask.
Basically, with the pools and us having 18 pools, with the city,
this is a burning question because I've seen a lot of talk about it with there being 18 pools, and everybody's in fan of keeping the pools that are left, but the spray parks are a great fiscal responsibility, and it saves the city a lot of money with the spray parks. But does the city see itself kind of sort of moving toward more spray parks and possibly phasing some more pools out?
I can't speak to phasing any more pools out. I can say that they are looking, which they were talking about, and I believe Ross Chapman addressed was Arlington was the next spray park pool that they were converting into a spray park, and then Paulson was going to be next on the list. So from what I know, this coming year, 2018, Arlington is looking to be open, and Paulson may not open next summer, but is the next one slated to be transferred into a spray park. And I mean, the spray parks, like you said, it is less expensive to run them. I still train people to work them because when they first opened it, we weren't supposed to have, the aquatics division wasn't really supposed to have anything to do with the actual spray parks. They were just supposed to be open like they were for playgrounds. But then we started, the first one we opened was Troy Hill, which used to be Cowley Pool in the north side. And then they started noticing there was vandalism. People were coming in, breaking bottles, bringing dogs, bringing grills, you know, just kind of setting up and kind of destroying the place. So then I just staffed people there just to watch over it. And then it became, I started getting nervous of things. Well, what if something would happen? They're not trained if somebody slips and falls. So I wanted them trained in first aid. Then, well, what if something else happens and somebody has a sudden illness, or, you know, they need to be higher trained. So now I want them trained in CPR and AED and being able to handle any type of an emergency, to be able to enforce rules and make sure that people know they can't just come in and smoke cigarettes and bring their dogs in. And so it became something that was almost, you know, we had to run it to a little bit of a higher level than what we initially thought. So there is some cost, you know, associated with it, but not nearly as much as it would be to run a swimming pool, absolutely.
Do you hire lifeguard staff for kind of those initiatives?
Not
or
for the spray
is it
parks.
a separate type?
No, we just hire, we interview, we hire people, and then we train them. And that's what's probably the most unique about our area, is that a lot of people just get on-the-job training when they're hired with the city, and our lifeguards and our staff have to go through rigorous training before they even get to the pool site and are able to work for us. And then they're constantly learning, so they're learning from us a 40-hour course of lifeguard training, which has first aid, lifeguarding, CPR, all of the basic courses. Then we even have, I listed some of the other certifications, which I don't think people realize how much training the guards get before they come out to us, but some of them are trained as certified pool operators, as pesticide technicians, to be able to deal with and handle any type of hazardous materials. We have new courses that we started this year in Homeland Security, where all of our guards will be trained in different FEMA courses. We have 4 of them that they'll be trained in. They go through workplace safety, conflict resolution training, customer service, basic sun safety. We've done guards through verbal judo training, and through just basic emergency action plans. Because I think a lot of people's conception of lifeguards are they're just a body sitting in a chair getting a suntan. And until something happens, that's all that they think of them as. And their job is so much more than that. And it's a very rewarding job. I did it for years. I mean, when you start teaching people how to swim, because all of our guards, we certify them to to help teach with all of our programs, which we have the infant and preschool aquatic program. So we start them at 18 months. Then we go to Children's Learn to Swim, and Children's Learn to Swim, we do 2 free weeks of that at the beginning of the summer to get kids started. And then we have Adult Learn to Swim, water aerobic classes. So our guards are teaching all of the programs. They're keeping the facility clean. So when they're not sitting in the chair and actively involved in surveillance, because we're all about prevention and we try to prevent any injury or incident from occurring, so they have to be alert and on their toes and watching and be able to recognize that somebody's in distress. We talk a lot about communicating with the, I noticed that the one woman was speaking about how they change staff at the different sites, and we really try to stress with our guards getting to know the public, and knowing your community is the best way of keeping your facility safe, because then you're going and you know which kid belongs to what parent. If you're having problems or issues, you know if a kid can swim or not swim and what parts of the water that they should be in. So we try to teach a lot of prevention, and the lifeguard jobs are just, they clean, they do a lot, and I don't think they get enough credit for that, how difficult their jobs are, and a lot of people just think they're there to get a tan, and that's really not, that's not the case. And they learn. I've also heard a lot of people say that, my kid needs to get a real job or do an internship, and they learn so much coming through. This is their first jobs. We teach them. They're interacting with the public on a daily basis, having to, de-escalate a situation, provide that customer service if somebody's upset or irate. They learn how to be part of a team and how to operate as a team. There's just so many skills, good decision-making skills, that they learn through their years, that I've learned, that they take as life skills to the future of their careers, just in general in life, the things that they learn. So I think this is one of the greatest jobs working for city parks, in especially the aquatics, because I'm a little, biased towards that, that they learn how to teach. I mean, they learn how to do so much. And it's just, it's a great opportunity, and it's a great job for people to have, and they stick with it. They move on to become doctors and nurses and, really nice, job positions, accountants. I mean, we have so many people that come back, and it's just so impressive of things that they accomplished and move forward, and they're always very thankful of what they've learned and the skills that they've taken from us for a couple years.
Well, thank you. I wanted to say thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Do you want to take more questions, or do you want? We just have 3 to 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So I didn't know if you wanted to present or any info. I didn't know if you wanted to present or any info.
He's been away. I'm sorry. No, and having
stop that.
No, I can certainly take questions. No, I can certainly take questions.
Shelley, you're going to be so glad that you took my question. It's actually, the first part isn't a question, but to just give verification to what you said, my young cousin, he's my second cousin, his name is Christopher Stack, and he was involved in something this year where him and a couple of his fellow lifeguards actually started CPR to save someone's life. So they are very well trained, and thank you very much for that. And so aren't you glad? And now for my question. I live in Crafton Heights, where Dunbar Park is, and that's behind the old Schaefer Elementary School, which is now occupied by the Pittsburgh Spice Company. Anyway, they took a pole out there, but there still looks like there's a bathhouse there. Like, I mean, it's a little building.
Is that what she's talking about, Crafton? No. Where? It's in Dunbar Park. I don't know what that is. What
no, it's in Dunbar Park, so I don't know what the pole name is. They put, what? Clare Haven Street? Clare Haven Street? Anyway, they put like a little parklet in, with the springy, ground and everything, and it's very nice. But there's this building there that I just imagine is crammed full of crap or something, and I just wondered, if you knew anything about that building and what's going to be done with it. Is there any chance of opening it up? There's so many people that come to that park. It really would be nice if that building could be used for something, even for recreation or for parents who come and take their kids to ball games, so that They could have something like a concession stand or something like
we
that.
can definitely look into it. How long was the pool recently closed?
Okay.
Or is it?
Thanks. I would say within the
And you're
past
sure it's a
5
city
years
pool?
it was closed.
Wasn't it in the
Well, it's a city street and it's...
It was next to the school. There's like a park right behind.
It was next to the school. There's like
Westwood?
a park right behind the school, a ball field, big ball field, and then there was a swimming pool.
It is Broadhead. Okay, Broadhead Manor. Yeah, no, it's not Broadhead.
Okay, I didn't know what the name of it was. I'm sorry.
Look into that. Because we have Sheridan over there that's still open in Westwood, and the only other pool we had that way was Broadhead, to my knowledge.
Yeah, the three that we traditionally have would be Sheridan, Broadhead, and Banksville in that area.
Westwood.
And Westwood.
Okay. Crafton Heights.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
all right,
I know,
thank you.
I've been here for a long time. He's been here longer than me, so one of us should have that answer.
That's why I didn't recognize it.
This is a question for all the presenters. So a lot of things you talked about, there's sort of other organizations that do those similar activities, like pools, recreational activities for youth. How do you work with other organizations? Is there a lot of overlap? Like, how do you navigate that?
I'll try to address that. Yeah, I think that what happens is you're seeking, I guess, like-minded folks and partnerships to improve probably fundamentally the fiscal piece so that you can have an opportunity to reach the people and have that active engagement and that high level of service delivery that you want to have. So I might be able to map this a little bit to the previous department I was in. As the city, we contracted with maybe 30, 40 organizations that served as the employer of record who would basically manage all of the youth, 2,000 kids or whatever, in those summer jobs. So we kind of served as the backdrop and the operator, administrator of the program, but you're pulling in or you're looking to pull in these folks with specialized areas of expertise, with active engagement in certain communities. So I think that the collaborative kind of approach to any of the things that all of the departments are trying to do, it's absolutely necessary. You know, you have to have buy-in, and you want to have that kind of ongoing engagement, whether you are front and center or not. And sometimes the best way to make that happen is to everybody get in the same car and you drive in the same direction. So I think that's, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but I think that's the goal in developing not just a partnership for one season, but to try to forge a relationship that's ongoing and lasting. And then I think it helps to reassure those that are utilizing any of those services that they feel better connected.
So are you using a lot of those partnerships? Because you didn't really talk about any.
Well, there are some, I would say, that in aquatics, most of that stuff is internal. I would say
a lot of our program. We work with other, city departments
Correct.
and stuff to do it. Now we've worked with Pittsburgh Public Schools, and for the past few years we've been teaching second graders and all the second graders in Pittsburgh Public Schools, which is about close to 1,000 kids, how to swim. We do that during the winter year, and then we have swim lessons. We feel it's very important that everyone at any age, if you can do one thing for yourself, is to learn to swim. So we collaborate, specifically with the Pittsburgh Public Schools to make sure that that happens, and that we're trying to make everybody safe. And it's never too late to learn. And we have classes for adults and classes for all the way from infants.
Yeah, I know Molly wants to move along. We have to let the other presenters present. But I think, too, that even on the senior center side, a lot of our rec center, senior centers, those centers are used by the community for other civic engagement. So there's a lot of facilities usage and rentals that happen. A lot of community-based organizations don't have a place to meet. They're using us as kind of a vehicle to help facilitate some of their own needs. And sometimes through those kinds of activities, engagements and relationships are developed that we learned that, hey, you're trying to do this with this group of kids or these group of folks. We're also trying to do something similar. So the partnerships, the linkages, intra-departmental stuff are significant enough that it makes kind of looking beyond what we do kind of necessary and optimal in trying to improve engagement. So I don't know if that helps you a lot, but I think that we'd be remiss to say that we could do it all on our own, because we can't, and we shouldn't. You know, I don't believe that we should. So I know you want to move on to the next.
That's okay. And if anyone, so we have like an online community on Slack. So if anyone has any lingering questions, you can post it on that, and I'll send it to Ross. And
sounds fine.
We'll get those.
Yeah, and it's everything, and I don't know if people realize, like, if anybody is a member to swim at the pools or even going to the rec centers, that we have the children, the youth under 16 years old swim free at the pools if you join your local rec center, and then you're just open up to a whole new world of activities and fun things, because we collaborate and do a lot of work with both the seniors and the rec centers, and they can come swim free, and that's for a whole year. Our calendar year is June to June. You swim outdoors. The Oliver Bathhouse is open from September all the way up until June, when the outdoor pools open. And our fees for our classes, for all the different types of classes that we teach, are very, very low. Just to get a pool pass to swim for a family of 4 that you can swim for an entire year is just $60. So it's very affordable. For seniors, $20. I don't think you can go anywhere and be able to get the kind of prices and service that you get coming to city parks, whether it's through the rec centers, the aquatics, the senior centers, community enrichment. We provide a lot of great services and fun things, and that's what keeps us here. We love serving people, helping people, seeing smiles on, you know, everyone's faces, and we're able to do it at a very low, affordable cost so that nobody's excluded. But thank you. I'm sorry that we didn't get to talk more, and thank you, Kurt, for all your words. Needs a round of applause.
That was for my silence, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to be here. You had a great presentation from Parks and Recs. I learned more tonight than I ever knew before. And being another city agency, that's a good thing, because we do work collaboratively. It's a fine group, I can tell. Happy faces. What we're going to do is go through what, I'll give you a little history very quickly. I tend to speak rapidly. I don't mean to hurry things along. We'll throw the first slide up, but I'll give you a little history about the Pittsburgh Parking Authority. And like I heard earlier, the sequence of how did you get to where you are now in city government, which was my intention at the beginning of my life cycle, since I have masters in public administration and masters in development and learning psychology. That was where I was going to go. But you know, things change, and that's good for all of us. I actually started at the city as a clerk with an advanced degree, but didn't tell anybody. And so things happened, and I'm now at the Parking Authority. He ended up with Mayor Murphy as his senior executive assistant. And then the rest of the story is history at this point in time. So that's a little about where my, never intended, but this is good, because working with people is always what I wanted to do. And this way you get the cross section of everybody in the city and outside the city who, when you're in tax office, which I was, hate you, hate you, hate you. Your mayor's office sort of maybe like you, not so much. Then you're back in parking. If we do parking, it's not just enforcement, you know, and people get very upset when you give them something like you received from me a minute ago, a ticket that really won't be harmful for you. The Pittsburgh Parking Authority is a separate entity from the city of Pittsburgh. That means we have our own budget, we have our own benefits package, we have our own pension package, but we work with the city as an agent. We give the city approximately $29 million a year out of our revenues, and that's our garages, which we have 11 of, our lots, which we have 31 of. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. 31 of those, and we have the street meters, which we share revenues, and Pittsburgh Parking Court. I am the director of administration, HR, parking court, neighborhood liaison, marketing, whatever you want, I'm there. You know, so that's the way I started, and I like that because I love people, because that's what we're all about, sharing and caring. So that's what I'm here to do tonight. So 1947, The Pittsburgh Parking Authority was established by Pennsylvania Enabling Act, government, not to act as an agent to the city. And that's a good thing because the city and everybody who pays taxes to the city, myself included, there's not 1 cent that the Pittsburgh Parking Authority employees take from city residents because we have our own funding source. If we went away tomorrow, which we're not, since it's almost 70 years now, the city would find a big chunk of money missing, but you and I as residents would not see a downtick in the taxes we pay to the city. And taxes keep us all thriving, so that's a good thing to do. That's where we come from, so it's good to know that separation, because a lot of people will say, oh, you. No, when I was at city, yeah, you paid my salary, but then I paid my own because I paid taxes too. Just like people forget that. That's kind of round robin. We all pay for each other. I go to a store, that kind of stuff. So this is our organization. We have mission, organization structure, budget, parking facilities, parking meters, enforcement, residence permit, parking court. That's our overview. Neighborhood economic development. We work as... Well, we work with Parks and Rec, sometimes called the farmers markets. So we have lots on the south side and we have lots in East Liberty, and so we work hand in hand to accommodate what the residents need, plus also it brings in people from outside the city to say, what a good system you have running here. So it is hand in hand that we work. We work with URA, we're developing things with URA. The lots in East Liberty, and I'm from Shadyside, the lots in East Liberty, we had most of them at one point, and the first big development was Home Depot out there. Without our lots and being able to transfer land, that couldn't have happened. Same with Target. All those depended on the spaces we had, so working with URA, because they have a different way of doing things than we do, which is a good thing, we were able to make more for the neighborhood, and that's what this is all about. We're collectively working together. It shows the overview, where accolades and awards, how do we do business with the authority. We're going to go right into the mission statement. That's a very simple mission statement, and I believe I wrote it. Provide and maintain affordable, safe, and clean public parking throughout the city of Pittsburgh. We're the lowest provider for parking rates. You go to any of our garages, and we're lower than any other garage surrounding us because we're a public entity to provide parking for the public at a reasonable cost. Parking is always going to be expensive, but ours is the least expensive at any other garage. We do a comparative every month on to make sure that that's the fact. The economic development, which I already explained, Home Depot, Target, and East Liberty is really going crazy right now. And they redid the roadway so I can go up Highland Avenue and not get caught in the circle, which that happened many years ago. They thought it was a good idea, not so much. So if you've been in East Liberty now, it's like incredible. Just in downtown's incredible. Everything in the city, all the surrounding neighborhoods, Bloomfield, Lawrenceville, they're calling the Lawrenceville the new South Side. I live there, I walk over to Bloomfield, it's like, what's going on? But that's all good stuff because people are investing in the city of Pittsburgh. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Maintain a status below market, organizational structure. We have a 5-panel board. In fact, we have our board meeting tomorrow. We have a monthly meeting where we go to our board with resolutions. The mayor appoints the people on our board. We have 4. We're waiting for the 5th. The executive director is usually recommended by the mayor, and then the board approves or disapproves. So therefore, there are oversight so that they will tell us if we're doing things right. Can we do it another way? So we always have to go to them before we do any kind of major project, which is good. That's called checks and balances. And board members are very good. They're not paid. So they're taking it on their own once a month to spend 2 or 3 hours with us and to work with us collectively on anything we have to do with the parking authority, which affects the city of Pittsburgh and the mayor's office and all that good stuff. Departments, we have 5. Administration, enforcement, residential permit parking, and meter service, it's all combined. Finance department, parking services, project management. Project management does most of the contracting for structures. If we need repairs in our garages and our lots, that's where we go for our requests for proposal problems. And then Pittsburgh Parking Court. Pittsburgh Parking Court came into existence in 2005. And I'm not going to follow the book because this is all in my head. In 2004, the state legislature, and the city was in Act 47, decided that the city of Pittsburgh in November would no longer be partaking in traffic tickets that were issued by the Pittsburgh Parking Authority because they were non-criminal. The Pittsburgh Parking Authority now would be responsible for setting up a court system in order to adjudicate those tickets. And to give you a number, we do about 256,000 tickets a year, 22,000 a month. Police tickets, which you can go to jail if you don't pay attention to paying it or being in court, they do about 30,000 a year. So we had, from November 2004 till January 1st, 2005, and I was there to set up a court system. We did it. And unfortunately, if you have to go, but now we do everything online, it's right in our 3rd Avenue garage. It's very nicely laid out because I insisted that when I went to the city and saw what their system was like, I said, well, maybe not so much. It wasn't the city's responsibility. Because when you got a ticket, you sit on a long bench, and if you get called that day, that's the way it is. That's the way it always used to be. So we set it up following our own pattern with our own lawyers, and it was approved by the state. And so we've been there since now 2005. So that's what we've done. So that's as far as we got as far as parking court's concerned. Now we have budgets. The city has budgets, and we have budgets too. We have the general fund, the capital fund, and the court budget, which is separate. The Pittsburgh Parking Authority is not owned or operated in any sense where they can put their hands into what happens over at parking court, because we have the enforcement wing that's over in parking. So therefore, the judges that we have are magistrates from the senior Allegheny County court system. So they're independent contractors. You know, you get to call, well, you know what? You're in charge of that parking court. I got this ticket. What do you think? I think maybe you need to call, or you need to go online, because $30 is not my job. And, well, don't you know which judge over there is good? I said, they're all good. You know, they're all independent. I'm not about to say, oh, yes. No, there's called ethics, and you need to maintain ethics in everything you do. Sometimes it's painful, but I'd rather have that pain than the other side of that game. So anyway, they're all independent, and so therefore, budgets are separate. It's a separate budget. We have a company that we've engaged for the last 10 years now through an RFP. They do all the back office stuff. They do all the collections. We simply issue the tickets, send them over to them. I have 2 staff people who work over to maintain the contract that we have with them, and also to review the tickets, the validity of them. And it's a good system because it's clean and it's separate, so nobody, in fact, we have had the news media in there, and we says, fine, you have your own separate room with 2 judges. If you want to allow the media in with you, that's fine. They have the right to say no. The media has never been able to find anything, because it's all above board. Everything we do is there. We have the records. You can review them. But you have to do the right to know kind of format to do that. There's budget stuff here for money. It says we have about $56 million budget. And like I said, we give $29 million to the city of Pittsburgh. We pay all the same parking taxes the private sector has to pay for you parking in a garage. People thought, oh, well, you don't have to pay those taxes. Oh, yes, we do. We're public, but we still have to pay the taxes, because that's a city tax, so it goes to the city. And they know they get that check from us. So that's a good thing. And it shows how much we gave. Well, now it went up to $29 million. I turned the page and it was 27, now it's 29. What can I tell you? Inflation's happening all over. How many garages? 11. Go downtown, you see our little symbol? That's our garage. Everybody thinks that we own every structure, every parking space there is in the city of Pittsburgh and the neighborhoods. Not so much. we're about a quarter, as the numbers will tell you, out of 28, almost 29,000 spaces, we have about 8,600, which are our structures. And we have we call the outliers. We have a garage in Oakland. For example, it's neither on Forbes nor Semple, it's on Myron. And we have, but that's okay, this is Pittsburgh. And then we have one in Shadyside, which is off Bellefonte in contiguous metered lots next door. One of the highest traffic areas for parking is actually the east end and the south side at this point in time. But that's okay. There's the capacity, we have 2 unions. When I first started at the Parking Authority, we didn't have any unions. I think we had 25 people. And so we kept taking more responsibility because parking enforcement used to be part of the city's public safety department. And in February of 1995, the city at that point said, you know what, we are going to send these, can the Parking Authority take this burden, or not burden, it wasn't really a burden, but can they take this as their entity because those tickets are not criminal. So therefore, separate them out because a police ticket is a criminal act. Like I said, if you don't pay it, a constable can arrest you. And so the Parking Authority said, sure. So ask me union, then Teamsters. At one point, all our garages were leased out, but we were paying all the bills. They would send us for the management, for this, for the everything there you go. Everything you bought, we were paying. So we sat down and we said, wait a minute here. Let us do an analysis of what we're actually paying out and see. But at that point, things had been established where this is the way it always was. New mayor, Murphy, said this is the way it's not going to be going forward. And our board was the same way. No, it's not going to be. So we challenged our board. We said, listen, let us be under the same construct that we do for an RFP for those who want to privately take over our systems and see if we can't do a better job or an equal job. We did. We took in one with allies, and there's only one outlier at this point. So we now have all in-house, all our facilities. We save money. It's better for the taxpayers. It's better for the parkers because we know how to streamline. In government, they say, oh, yeah, right. No, we know how to streamline. I can tell you this current administration is one of the streamlining administrations. Our administration was a streamlining administration. Everything in the city is condensed so that we all are working smarter, maybe longer hours, and not making the pay that you normally would in a private sector. But who cares? In your government, you are out for the people. That's the way it is. Simple as that. So that's how we then took all the garages in. So now we're more self-sufficient, and we can keep the budget numbers the way they should be. We've never exceeded our budget in any year that the Parking Authority has been established since 1947. They've always been in the black. So that's a good thing. Okay, where are we? Garages, facilities. I gave you a lot of those handouts because I like to look at things. I like to touch things. So basically, I want you to go on our website as well, and you will see that we kind of have a dynamic website, which is hosted by the city. Another savings there. I've been working with the city for so many years now, I can't remember. I still know the people there that are still there, and everybody knows, oh, Anthony, call him at the Parking Authority. He'll get you where you need to go because you kind of know who to talk to. And so that's the way it works. So go on our line, go check us out and see what's out there because we've got a lot of great things. And we're going through the rate structure. Everything is high tech. And so therefore, we as an authority, I'm jumping ahead, but we've won awards for the last 8, 9, 10 years. You would think parking awards, what is all this about? Well, there's at least 5 parking magazines. And the biggest one is the International Parking Institute. IPI, go online. You will never, there are conventions, there are seminars. I mean, what are you talking about? You're putting cars into some structure. Yes, but the high tech around it is incredible. So I would really, I mean, I get 4 magazines a month. And it's like, my name's not in there. I'm not going to read that. Are you going to ask a question already, young man?
My question is, you talked about the board. What is the source of public input other than an elected mayor selecting board members? Is there like, you know, like PWSA board has hearings? Is there stuff like that for public input?
We don't have hearings because our board is strictly to allow us to do what we need to do to be as an authority, meaning I need to do reconstruction of this garage. We need to go out for capital budgeting. We need to put out a request for proposal so you or anybody else can bid on it. It's on our website. It's in all the magazines and all the journals. That's the only overseeing we have there because we have a board that covers that.
Right, but I think to answer your question, our board meetings are open to the public, and the public is invited to attend, and you have time to ask any questions to the board at that meeting. Pardon me?
Isn't there one tomorrow?
There is one tomorrow. The time was changed. It's 1:30. Our board meetings are normally the third Thursday of every month at 10 a.m., and it's at our main office location, 232 Boulevard of the Allies. But tomorrow's meeting was changed until 1:30.
So they take public comment?
Yes, they do.
Respond to public
Yes.
comment?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, anybody can come down. We've had union members, we've had neighborhood members come in to have a special project, and can we assist them and help them working through another vehicle? Because there's certain limits on what we can do from the state, and that's good, and we try to work to accommodate whatever everybody needs. It's a 3-minute that you get to speak if there's some burning issue or something you want to bring to the attention to the parking
But they don't
authority.
hold you to time. They'll allow you to speak.
Well, don't you have a stopwatch? Cling. We have all these surface parking lots. It shows you how many spaces. Parking meters. Now, we were the first in the nation, citywide, to install multi-space pay-by license plate meters. It's the Calais meter. Now, they were in Switzerland, and this was a company that actually developed the system. And so the city, as we were looking to remove the iconic single-space meter, what can we do to get to the next step in high technology? And so requests for proposals went out. Many companies sent in whatever they could do or couldn't do, and Calais had what we wanted, plus it had what we wanted to move forward into the future. Not only did we thinking that now you can pay at the kiosk and put in your license plate number, and you'll notice in there I gave you a little sticker in there, and that's where you could put on the back of it, you could put your little, it's a key fob, and you could put it on your license plate number there. But I tell everybody, just get your cell phone out and plug it in like a phone number, and you'll never forget. So that we won awards for that, for being the first city to go citywide. And as of this year, there is no single space meters in the city of Pittsburgh anywhere. In fact, the History Center, excuse me, I'm hiding. The History Center was so intrigued about this whole occurrence that they asked us if they could have some of our single space meters and one of the Calais machines, because they have if you walk on the second floor, and actually I went down to verify it because I do the marketing, they have all this high-tech stuff which coming up with an Uber car, and one of our Calais machines will be featured there to show that where high-tech has gone and where it's going to. And on top of winning an award for that, and this goes hand in glove, we also, 2 years ago, did a pay by cell phone, and that's the other, the long thing to pay by cell phone at a meter. Now this is great. You know why it's great? Because we've freed up downtown. That means there used to be time limits, 2 hours and you move and get a ticket, or if you don't get a ticket. Southside, North Shore, Oakland, to see what happens if their time limits are just taken off. And the way that it works with Park Mobile is simply that you engage their services. It's 8 cents per transaction, so that's not very much, but of course you have to pay for the meter. Now that's not, 8 cents, I'm going to go park. You didn't hear me wrong. It's only for that transactional fee. It lets you know within 15 minutes, hey, if you didn't think you were put enough money in, on their card, hey, do you want to up your charge because you're ready to expire? And downtown, if you want to pay $4 an hour and you want to stay there 8 hours, go for it. But you'll not get a ticket, because that's a $40 ticket. So that's high tech that has come to us, and Pittsburgh's very unique in the fact that we have so much high tech here. CMU, Pitt, robotics, Google, and hopefully that other big company that starts with an A will come here. Who knows? Maybe that's what they're going to announce at that meeting. I don't know. That we're so high tech that people are coming to the city of Pittsburgh. We just had 3 weeks ago the commissioner, New York City commissioner, and his crew come to the city of Pittsburgh in our offices to see how we do what we do with the multi-space meters. It was incredible. Like New York? I mean, I went to school there, but New York. And so, excuse me, I'll get right to you. They came in, went out, because we also have LPRs on our cars now, which means you can drive down the street and it will take the license plate. And then when it's a hit, it lets you know, and then an officer then produces a ticket and puts it on the vehicle. They're used basically in our RPP zones right now because that's a lot of walking, but it's technology that's all meshed together. So therefore, they wanted to see how it physically worked because they have 40,000 parking spaces. We have 9,000. So, you know, and I know how the New York Parkers, I don't know how you get in between them. And so that was a compliment. And then a week later, Atlanta group came up and they said, we're coming to Pittsburgh. You said, Pittsburgh? Yeah, high-tech city, baby. You know, so they came up and they wanted to see what we did with our system. But this technology's been out there like 9 years. So it's like, hello. So we are at that fountainhead where people are looking at us with these different eyes that, hey, Pittsburgh is a place to come. Not only are we high-tech, but we're one of the friendliest cities that I've ever been in, and I know that for a fact. So with this high-tech, and you over here, this young lady and gentleman, you can attest to the fact that that pay by cell phone can be a lifesaver, and it actually works as it is purported to work. So you had a question, young man.
I did. How do you do what you do with these consoles? Like, how did they emplace them? Are they battery powered, or did they they're hardwired into the?
No, okay, I'm going to answer that. There's this way. There's battery backup, but they're cellular. I mean, they're solar. There's solar panels on them, but it's battery backed up because, you know, if you go downtown and with all our wonderful buildings and we're so compact, it's good for walking. You know, when people say city of Pittsburgh and say, oh, you should be like New York. No, no, no. You can put or Philadelphia, you can put the whole city of Pittsburgh in one block of Philadelphia. And I love it because of that, because I'm a walker and I take a bus. You work at the parking authority, you take a bus? Yes, every day of my life. Anyway, it's all solar with a battery backup. And we've never had any issues with them. As new iterations come out, we replace them with the newest machine. We've added spaces to the street because now, when you don't have a single space meter, and people really love the single space meter. There was a movie, Cole Hand Luke, and he was with, Newman, and he was taking all the meters off, and he says, we have a failure to communicate, and they threw him in jail. They are iconic. So therefore, people said, but I knew where I was parking. I would be right at the meter. They do have adaptations on it, but we said no. When you don't have metered by single spaces, we know this is a fact, you get 10% more parking. People will park, because those were 1921 feet. You don't need that for most cars nowadays. So therefore, you get more parking space on the street than you do with a single space meter. So it's actually accommodating people because say, I can't find a place to park. Well, we try to accommodate a little more by 10%. So anyway, and we also have such a thing called as dynamic pricing. And CMU is working on that with us. It's where, say one street is always so occupied that nobody can seem to get in there because it's an all-day parker. Not that I have any problems with all-day parkers, but then they say, well, wait a minute, maybe the rates aren't really correct, so we might need to adjust them to see if we can move them into these other streets where they're not parking and they can park. And so that's a program we're working with the Carnegie Mellon. So it's very interesting, and high tech is here to stay. You had the question.
I had another question.
Oh, you're full. He's got 3. He's done.
Obviously, for this to work correctly, each one of your meters needs to be sending a signal out to the cloud or the internet or through some means, some central intelligence, correct? That is constantly happening. As data is being entered in, it's being sent to a database or some central whatever. So it's running like sort of their like little cellular phones in there, you know? I mean, basically.
No, they're not cellular phones.
Well,
it's a direct connect. But the secret is, and you may be going here with this one because people are talking about privacy nowadays. Those license plates don't tell us anything because there's no information attached to them. The only time there's information attached to a license plate is if you get a ticket and then you don't call us in 20 days to do an online hearing or set up an in-person hearing, and so then the company that's certified and secure with their encryptions contacts a DMV, and the DMV just gives name, address, and phone number. That's it. So that's how we then can send you a notice. By the way, you had 20 days, and now your ticket's going to go up. So therefore, people were concerned at one point when I would go to meetings that, well, what are they doing with my license plate? Well, anybody in the street can see your license plate. But, you know, so we had lawyers explain it. There is no information that we retain. 24 hours, it's dropped. If there's no reason for that information there, it's purged from the system in 24 hours. So couldn't tell you who that car is and where they live until you get a ticket that is not taken care of.
I'm not really concerned about that. Yeah, I agree with you. Anyone can find out your license plate. I'm just trying to understand, because when you're there, and I see them all the time and I use them all the time, it's like they're boxy, you know, they feel substantial, and like it's either there's like you wired it into the concrete, or it's constantly sending information out of it. Like you said, it's solar. So I'm just trying to understand like what
it goes through a cellular system, because there are no, if you take one of those machines off, there's nothing in the ground.
So are you contracted with someone to do that?
We are. This is Calais Systems, but we have our own software through Group Techna, which speaks to it, and it's our software. It's prioritized to us, and nobody else can have access to it. So we work with 3 companies.
Okay.
It's all integrated.
Okay.
Absolutely the way it should be. It's kind of frightening sometimes, but that's a very good question.
Okay.
Very good question. Okay. Where am I, young lady? Oh, off-street meter rates. If you're interested, that's how much it costs you, and those are the hours of enforcement. However, we have a special. This I sound like I'm selling something here. We have a special on the south side that we're doing a program. It's a pilot program, and started, I guess, 3 months ago. Because of all the good stuff that's over south side, they decided, well, maybe Friday, Saturday, we should enforce not just till 6, but till midnight, and in our lots as well. And they found that it's working the way they expect it to work, that it's really reducing people that just would park their cars, leave them there overnight, or be in the neighborhoods longer than you need to be where you actually could pay for parking. And so we found that that system is now working on the south side. It hasn't branched out, and the revenues will be generated for that community, and they'll be split out once they pay for all the necessary enforcement costs and any other auxiliary costs that go along with it. So it's a program testing. Again, we're trying to be innovative and responsive to the needs of the community. And seeing sometimes it works and sometimes not so much. So it's just it's in its infancy, and it seems to be working like we're hoping it would have worked. Enforcement. It's on the enforcement for on-street meters, hours of enforcement. On-street hours of enforcement tells you that the south side there, it's PED, Parking Enhancement District. There's Sunday enforcement, and so if you ever go to a game, the Steelers, Pirates, playing over there, and especially in the residential apartment parking areas, because those people get adversely impacted. A few years ago, they said, you know what, this is not fair. We're a neighborhood, we're a community, we want to live in our neighborhood, and these people are parking in our garages, they're parking in our lawns. Literally, if you have a garage, congratulations, in most city houses. But no, they were literally parking, blocking their driveways, and so the city, in its wisdom, allowed the charge would be $125 if you, well, some people, they pay that for parking over there and for a Steeler game. But $125 would be the ticket that would be issued to anybody who's parked over there during the game days where you shouldn't do. So if you live in that area, we're doing our best to keep those people out of your front porch. Yes?
Sir, how do you determine what neighborhood gets a permit? Like in Mount Washington, we have a growing number of owners because of people come and bought houses and then they rent them out. And then we also have a ton of renters who are always changing. Always changing.
Those renters are terrible, aren't they?
Terrible.
I started out as a renter.
I wonder how.
They just don't do the law. They just think their friends are going to give them that pass and says, "Here, put it on my dashboard." Here's how this works. And this is my experience because I've been there to know how it works. City planning, and we may be taking that function over from city planning, so we're a one-stop shop here because we have the issuing the permits until this year, high-tech, we have a portal, you now can do online residential permit pit with your license, so we have it there. And the visitor's pass, everybody wants that piece of paper. My neighbor came over there and said, "I don't have a piece of paper that I can put on the dashboard. What are they doing to me in the city?" I said, "Okay." They all know I work in the city, so they look to see where I park. You know, so this is the day they're coming through with this, you know, so now I park in the back of my house. Anyway, city planning was always the place you went with your neighbors who decided, hey, we want residential permit parking in our neighborhood. You would have to go out, petition. 70% of those neighbors in that district would have to agree. They would bring that petition back to city planning. They would send somebody out to verify the license plates on a weekly basis, see who actually was staying and who wasn't, and they would get the information from the DMV to know if the person lived there or not. And then at that point, they would say, this is fine. They take the city council, legislation was written, and then you were franchised. And then the signs would go up before we could do anything. The signs had to be up. The signs would go up and say, RR. And then we would be notified at the parking authority, you can now issue, and if somebody doesn't have a permit, then you can ticket. So that's how the original story went. I don't know if that's going to change any because I can't see it changing because it's a franchise, because every 5 years you have to come back and be recertified by council that your district wants to keep itself in the program. Now, I know that you can decertify yourself because a street where I live in Shadyside, they had it, and they said, you know what, we're one way. We no longer want that. So they were decertified many, many years ago. I think probably at this point they're probably going to ask to be recertified back again. Because you know what happens when you have your street, the next, because I have it where I live. I never had it on my street. I said there's no issue here. I don't need it on my street. But we got it on my street. And there is no issue except for all those other people now that have it on theirs, don't have it on their street. All the cars say, well, that's only 1 block away. So I'll park on their street. So now every street has it, so there's nowhere you go that you can't have RPP. So that's how the program initially works. Now, receiving the RPP, they're no longer going to be stickers. The famous sticker you could see, and everybody would save them for years, which was illegal if we wanted to ticket them. You're supposed to take them off every year. And I can't. I say, get Gooby gone. It works. And a little straight edge. So those no longer be on the cars. So there's a souvenir, you know, and sell it on eBay a few years from now as one of those, oh, wow, do we remember when this was? And then the little nice paper that said visitor's pass that you put on your dashboard and everybody could see, gone. You'll call in. There's a porthole. They'll have your information. You can call in when people, because I had my neighbor do it. She's hollering at me. She still hollers at me every time. She says, I don't want to keep calling in. What if they come all of a sudden? Is there somebody working at midnight? Well, nobody's going to enforce at midnight. So you don't have to worry about midnight. So that paper's gone. And in some neighborhoods, and I've been to meetings, which I was standing in for somebody else, and first thing they said, how are we going to know that that car belongs in this neighborhood? Okay, I don't know. I guess maybe that shouldn't be such an issue. Just call it in. call us the license plate number. We're out and about all through the city of Pittsburgh. We don't have enough officers that we could canvass everything, and you kind of wouldn't want that. You want a little breather there. Oh, I was only there 5 minutes. My flashers were on, and where were you hiding that I got a ticket? So, not so much in the city of Pittsburgh. If you get a ticket, that was not a good day for you. Perhaps you didn't know the rules of the game. If you know the rules of the game, you usually come out okay. Did that answer your question? I tend to extenuate things.
My entire district.
Yes.
So petition the city council.
Contact city planning first. I think they're still doing that until I know what we're going to be doing. And then they will set up the necessary petition paperwork. I've actually seen it because I had to sign one for my street. And then they'll take that back. They'll verify those license plates actually are people there. And then they'll take it to the next step. You have to start the petition from your neighborhood. And they have to justify that happens, because some people say, oh yeah, no, everybody's parking here, but after they've done the survey, they find, no, you can't. You don't have 70%. You may think you have 70%, but you don't. But that's down the road a bit. And it takes a few years for that process to happen. Street cleaning. All residents, right? Hear it all the time. But the sign, and they never come by, and don't we get that? The sign says, and it used to be 2 sides, twice a month. I'm so happy it's just 1 a month. Move your cars. Where am I going to move my car? I don't know. People always have said to me when I go to these meetings, well, it's not fair. And I said, well, and I'll speak to Bloomfield, because I love the people over there, and I love them everywhere I go. Well, when you were first living here, you had 1 vehicle. Then you had children, and you had 2 vehicles. And then you had more children, and you now have a car, and a truck, and an SUV, and a motorcycle. But the streets did not get any longer. Well, you're supposed to find parking for us. Not so much. So I understand the frustration, because I live in an RPP zone. And I know that I have 1 vehicle. So mine's hidden away in the back of my house. And so therefore I don't really impede, because I don't want to. If I have a place I can park it, I don't want to have somebody on the front street not have a place to park. That's being a good neighbor. And you know how good neighbors we are here. I know that person didn't get a ticket because they know somebody in City Hall, right? We're all like that, especially the day we want to park and we can't even get parking spaces. And I always hear is, in front of my house. It was never meant for in front of your house. It was never meant for in front of your house. So anyway, don't get tickets. And there's the LPR car. There's a permit area, and it tells you they're responsible for selling permits. There's 38 RPP districts. Shadyside has a lot. Everybody has a lot. There's 453 streets, so that's a lot of traveling. And we used to do this by foot in the districts. And then if you have a 1 hour, 2 hour, we would have to time you and then come back on foot. Where the vehicle, you go down, bing, 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 bing. Now you've done 3 areas, and you've helped the residents, because they keep saying, nobody comes down the street and does anything, and I know these people shouldn't be in my neighborhood. And now we have the means, the high T, and what we also do, we have records for everything. We know when a ticket's issued, what's the gap time between the ticket, what vehicle got the ticket by the license plate number, and it's always, oh, I've never gotten a ticket, and I pull it up and I go my G4 system, and I say, oh, you had 17 tickets. I guess you didn't get the message after the 15th one that maybe you shouldn't be parking there. I have 17 tickets. Yeah, they're looking for you. 5 tickets, so you know this. If you have 5 tickets that are unpaid, you get a notice. You're going to be put on a boot list. You've gotten 2 notices for each ticket. If you haven't, and now we can do it online. And I'll get to them. We do ticketing you can do hearings online through the magistrate system. You send your information, and we have one of the judges sit at their console, and they look at what you present. But when we take and give you a ticket, we have to take a picture of the license plate. We have to take a picture of it being on your windshield, because I never got that ticket. Somebody must have taken it off my windshield. Well, that can happen. I don't know why, but they can happen. So we have to do that before a ticket can be issued. And we also ask them to take more pictures. Say, if you're in a handicap spot, or there's a big prominent store, like, you know, you're down in a strip district. And to make a story short on that, we've had somebody like that who insisted that wasn't them. They were never in the strip district. And when the pictures were presented, this was actually in office, when it, oh, you saw this name, and it said, my wife must have had the car that day. Always blame it on the woman. Why? So anyway, there are reasons why. So this information is provided to us to really help you. And you're given, I mean, our tickets, look, they're mauve. I was ahead of the curve. And everything you want to know is on there. Well, I don't know who to call. Where should I call from? It's on the back of the ticket. Well, I don't know what I got the ticket for. It's on the front of the ticket. You can pay online. I don't know. How can I pay? I can't come down. You can pay online. You can have a hearing online. Oh, see, you get a ticket and right away the rage starts. This is unfair. They gave it to me. Somebody was out to get me. No, we don't do that. We're not out to get you.
Excuse me. The people who write the tickets.
Parking enforcement officers.
Okay.
Endearing meter maids.
Okay, yes. So do they have to go through any type of training, whereas, well, I'll give you an example. I got a ticket. I was shopping on Walnut Street, and so I got a ticket, and I told the lady the meter was broke, and she says, tell your story to the judge. And that was the end of it.
That's how we train them.
Yeah.
Quick to the point, no conversation, no agitation, just tell it to the judge. No. We have 6-month probationary period, and every year we have 2 sessions from outside speakers coming in, customer service, customer courtesy, how to treat the public, how to avoid to get into confrontation. Because if you've ever gotten a ticket, and if you're a very congenial person, it's like, whatever, life goes on, I'm not going to get my cortisone levels to give me a heart attack. Other people, like, it's a red flag, like, you did this intentionally. So it's hard to step back. You almost have to be a counselor to do the job, to deal with the general public who have, at that moment in time, nobody knows what was going on in your life. And so we don't want somebody to be curt, like you just mentioned, and say, well, you know, talk to the judge. You can say that in another way, but sometimes the tones, after 4 people beat you up on the street verbally because you're issuing tickets, it's not so easy to, even no matter how much training you are, it just comes out. So we would apologize for that. No, they're trained, and we have 2 sessions every year in order to make sure customer service, we're here to serve the public. We don't have to take demeaning remarks from them, but we don't turn around and, you ain't talking to me like that, my children wouldn't talk to me like that, and that kind of thing. So we try to diffuse it. But once in a while, I've had that happen where officer's no longer there, worked all her life, and one day, wonderful officer, and I handle the HR stuff too, I forgot that, yeah, I put that in there. And she came in and I said, what happened? Well, you know, he was coming across the street to attack me on the south side. No, there was too many, it was during the daylight. I said, but, well, I just, you know, I issued a ticket, said there's nothing I can do for it, you know, please, you need to do service. And I said, oh, is that it? And then when I was walking away, I turned back and I said, have a nice day. Well, that blew it all up out of proportion. You know, she had turned and said to the person, have a nice day, but not meaning in that way, and so that person, but we've never had people really do anything with our enforcement officers. It's just that aggravation. We tell them to not say anything, or say, not even this is my job, or just step away, or say, there's instructions on there. If that unit wasn't working, please call the number and let them know, and we can find out if that unit was working or not at the time that you said. So there are ways we can help you. And then you can do it online, so therefore that makes it easier. You don't have to take time to go downtown, because you just punch in your information. I mean, if you have 1 ticket that's in your lifetime, that's the day, that's the time to do it. I know.
My question to you is that, like, say you guys say you get a certain amount of tickets, then you get the quote-unquote boot put on your car. Okay. Now, from the time that the boot's put on a car and say you guys come and confiscate the car, all right, does that negate the tickets that that person accumulated once you take the car, or how does that go?
Here's how this works. And I insisted when we were setting up parking court to be as courteous as we can. I'm not playing hero here, but I know from my own lifestyle, my own life background, my grandmother taught me, my mother taught me, you just be as kind. And Grandma was like a peacemaker, never raised her voice, never said anything. It'll go away. It'll take care of itself. You're still alive. Your limbs are working. That's all you need to worry about. In that case, when you get a ticket, you have 20 days to respond to that ticket. You get a second ticket. And then if you don't, you get a first notice. Hello, you're kind of late here. And then 30 days after that, you get a second notice. Hello. And then it goes to a collection agency. By the time you have 5 tickets, you've gotten at least 12 notices that somehow you need to pay attention to this. And then you get another notice, say, you're on a boot list, and we find you. We don't know exactly where you're driving, so we have to go out and scout for you. And now we have a system on our handhelds that if we plug in a license plate number, and it says scofflaw, we verify that the 5th ticket wasn't paid within 30 days, and then that immediately goes to the boot truck. So that's how it helps them now to get that person. You'll get a big orange tag on your windshield, and you have 72 hours to pay the boot fee. What's it, $350? Plus all your tickets. If you do not do anything in 72 hours, then McGann & Chester takes your vehicle up to their lot. And then it sits there, and there's charges additionally for storage charges. And then after 30, 60 days, they do the paperwork through the state, because titles were property minded in Pennsylvania, that you can't just come and take my property even though I owe you money. There's a process you must go through to verify you've done everything possible to let that person know, even though they were remiss in what their responsibilities were. That's how that system works. And then they go to auction, and then that's it, we're done.
So basically the ticket ends after it's...
I'm sorry, basically I was trying to help because people are able to view this. So basically that ticket would end after that, or should they be worrying about having a debt with either the state or the city?
Now
here's what, that
never ever goes away. You will be on the dunning notice from the credit bureau, but what has happened is that before this year, they could actually put it on your credit rating. So people would call, hey, you know, I'm trying to do a mortgage. What is this 3 tickets I have outstanding? I said, well, not me personally, but I can actually find that for you. Say, well, yes, you do, and they need to be cleaned up. Well, New York passed a law that affects Pennsylvania and 2 other states, which says, since they're non-criminal, we don't think it should go to the credit bureau. So as of this year, you can have gazillion tickets out there, and we cannot, we don't, this is a private entity, they cannot forward it to the credit bureau. So when they look down the scan, they say, hey, wait a minute, they don't pay their parking tickets. If you have police tickets, it's a different story, because that is a criminal activity.
And last but not least, is using the term meter maid politically correct?
Well, let me tell you a story. Here he goes again. Meter maid. The Beatles, if you're familiar with that group, there's still 2 of them left, had a song. And when I first went to the Parking Authority and we wanted to do some advertising, part of the advertisement on KQV, I went into the background, the Beatles playing Lovely Rita Meter Maid. Now, at one point, they were all women who were enforcing parking and other assorted violations. So they were called meter maids. Well, that has changed because there's now men. So it was changed to parking enforcement officer. And a quick story, I remember one of the gentlemen had to come in, something didn't quite work out on the street. And the person said, you should fire that person the way they spoke to me out there. Of course, I wasn't there to see what was coming from the other person, and we're supposed to be saints and take, oh, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever, you know, okay. And I said, what was the issue? Well, he called me a meter maid. I said, it's not a challenge to your manhood. In other terms, soft term, that's my counseling wing, you know, it's okay. I think it's an endearing term. You could go with them. Yes, that's me, meter maid. Why not? It's a fun term. So that's why the term now, we don't use it, but people still call them that darn meter maid, whether it's a guy or a woman, because that's all they really knew. So we call them PEOs, which is easier, but that can get you in trouble too.
Anytime somebody calls me a meter maid, I tell them I'm a meter butler. Not a meter maid.
That's right. So you should never take offense, from my consultation, you should never take offense to words. If you put value that somebody throws at you on that word, they've won. It's sort of like drawing the line in the sand. There's moments where you say, that's just enough. But they're only words. They should never hurt you, or you allow them in to hurt you. And that's hard to tell enforcement officers and in our garage attendants, because we have 2 unions. You know, you're supposed to be the face of pleasantness, no matter what is happening around you. The buildings could be collapsing, but you need to tell people how to get out. You can't be part of the panic. Yes, sir.
So you said one of the goals is to provide affordable.
You said one of the goals is to provide affordable parking in the city. Do you sell leases to people who live outside the city too? Do you discriminate at all?
I don't understand that word, but leases are in lots. So we don't care where you live if you're going to want to lease in our lot.
So it's city residents and non-city residents who are benefiting?
Yes.
Okay.
And same in our garages. We have leases. We have leases in our garages. We don't care where you live. If you want to lease in our garage, we have a capacity. We can't do more than, because we're a public entity, not like the private sector, they can lease the whole garage. We can't do those kinds of things.
Is there any prioritization or anything like that, or could all the leases be bought by non-city residents, theoretically?
Theoretically, probably, but that really doesn't happen, because mostly the residents kind of need leases, or the businesses in our neighborhood. And we have to limit how many leases you can have in one of our surface lots, because that's for the public. We're a public entity. If we were private, we could do anything we wanted, because the bottom line was not service to the public, but profit, profit, profit. You've been smiling too much tonight.
Oh, no. Thank you. My question is about, excuse me, about the permits in the neighborhoods. If you own a home, but you're not living there, you're renovating it, and you're living in another part of the city, is it possible to get a permit for the area where you're renovating the home?
You would not get a residential permit parking.
Okay.
But if you're having people do work, you can contact our office, our main office, and that's online too, and tell them you need a variance. But they have to know exactly what you're talking about. It would be the contractor would go down, that they're working in this area and they need to have this time in order to do it. So we're not unreasonable. We have to be very careful what we do and how we do it, but there are options.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. When we went to online hearings, it used to be everybody went down 3rd Avenue. If you ever go there even to get a ticket, it's a very nice atmosphere. You're treated very respectfully. It's very clean, pristine, and that's the way you should be. There's even a television there if you need to watch it. You're only there about 15 minutes. But last year, when online came 2 years ago, we did over 16,000 hearings online. And that same year, which would be the opposite, we only did 67 in person. It used to be all hearings were in person, and then with the online, because people can present their documentation. But like I said earlier, if they can send us a picture, but we're looking at the pictures right there, then when we say, by the way, we have these 3 pictures, we have your license plate, we see the ticket on the windshield, and we see Permanente Brothers in the background. Oh, okay, next. So it helps us be better with you because we're all little tricksters once in a while. Little white lies don't hurt, you know, just as long as they're not harmful. We need to do them to protect people sometimes. You do things that you would say, okay, not so much. Towing, 168 tows. So that's not a lot of tows. We have about 3,000 scofflaws out there. So people just pay for the tickets or contest them. Don't put yourself through the aggravations because we're really not here to aggravate. We're just doing our job. If we didn't do it, there'd be chaos in the streets. Simple as that. Anyway, anything else that I haven't covered? Online hearings, like I said, they're like 3 times as much as anywhere else. Charts and graphs, I told you 256,000 tickets. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? But the chart, it's about 20-some thousand a month through 365 days a year, because we work 365 days a year. Oh, okay, we were the first garage downtown working with the Sprout Fund to have a famous artist. If you go to our Smithville Liberty garage, it's part on Smithville. It has the Guggenheim round things on the Smithville side, if you've ever seen the Guggenheim picture of it in New York. And on the other side, on the corner on 7th Street, you have this floor-to-wall mural. And we were the first, working with the Sprout Fund, to put a mural on any of our buildings downtown. Park Day, we have a bike rental place behind our First Avenue garage, which is part of the Allegheny Passage. And you can go down there, you can rent a bike, you can rent the gear if you're taking, in fact, I talked to Tom today, because I'm changing our website to incorporate more of what he does down there, because the Great Allegheny Passage, that's if you're a bike rider, you can go from here down to Washington, from back up here, and then go wherever it goes up the Allegheny. So we're working with him. So we have a bike place down there, and we were the first on the East Coast to have this bike place set up, and it's under the trestle, where our First Avenue garage, where the T comes across. So let's see and then we have 3rd Avenue. If you're a biker, we have a bike shop. You can fix your bike there. You can rent a space for a year if you want to in a cage that's locked up. But we have all the tools to fix bikes there as well. We worked with Bike Pittsburgh on that a few years ago, so we were one of the first garages to have internalized for bikers, because that seems the way a lot of people want to go, is for biking. We work with Sustainable Pittsburgh. We work with the 2030 district, and they're the building. We're doing LED lights in all our structures to save kilowatt hours. We're trying to green. It's hard to green a garage, but we're trying to keep it as green as it can be. I work with the Green Workplace Challenge, where we try internally with our workers to say, can we do this? Use less paper, do something else, take the bus, which I do. So we're part of a lot of what goes on, but you wouldn't think the Pittsburgh Parking Authority and enforcement, we have our hands in everything, and that's a good way to be, because we're a small city. And like I said, if we have New York and Atlanta coming to the city of Pittsburgh to find out how, you would think they should know, especially New York, how to do those things. We were flattered. It was like, sure, bring the commissioner down, give us one of your hats and a little tote bag. I think I carried it in here tonight. You know, we'll be willing to do that. And I gave you all those handouts. If there's any questions that you need to ask, our numbers are all online. Go www.pittsburghparking.com, and you'll see Anthony, you'll see the executive director, you'll see enforcement director, you'll see finance director, you'll see we're all there, we're accessible. And if you have any questions, feel free to give the questions to Molly, and I'll be more than willing to help answer as much as I can. Is there any outstanding questions? Okay. Thank you.